I've been continuing work on my solo game dev project, Sacred Forest, an open-world action-adventure game where you play as a pixel art, bow-wielding heroine set within a diverse forestscape. There's a lot of action, and you battle bite-infected monsters to bring balance to the forest. It's developed in Godot 4, and you can even wishlist it on Steam. I'll leave a link down below. My main goal for now is to create a playable demo for Sacred Forest that will have at least an initial version of most of the features that will be in the final game. As part of that, I've been working on some of the starting areas in the world. This little encampment is a new area, and it's actually the starting point for the game. I chose this spot based on the position of where the sun will be, so that it pops through this gate and shines onto the volumetric fog to give it this cool glowy effect. I felt like starting with a sunrise to the beginning of the game would be kind of a cool little metaphor for the new beginning that will be your adventure. I'm happy with how it turned out so far, but none of this stuff in the game should be considered a final version. I'd be happy to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Through this gate, the camp connects to this new area. It's pretty much a training grounds area, and it's going to act as the tutorial zone to teach all of the basic controls for the player, but I'll get to that in a bit. It might seem a little bare right now, but I mostly wanted to get it blocked out so that I can move along with other parts of the game. Both of these new areas connect to the small little village area that I've shown in previous devlogs. The village is far from being done, but it's pretty cool to see all these connect to each other. I'm building Sacred Forest by expanding outward from the starting position for now, because I know if I went ahead and built the other towns and areas in the game, I wouldn't be confident that I would leave enough space to have interesting combat areas, or maybe I'd leave too much space so the game feels empty. I want to build the starting areas for the demo and get some combat areas in place so I can at least get a little bit of feedback for the game, which will help me build out the world without having to do a bunch of rework. Since I've been building out the world, it's definitely taken its toll on the performance of the game, but I've counteracted a lot of that performance hit by using a few different techniques. I've talked about some of these before, so I just want to list these out a little bit, and you can do some more research on them if that's something you're interested in. The first is using level of details. Essentially, instead of just having really detailed meshes everywhere, the idea is to only render highly detailed meshes near the player camera, and low detail meshes farther away. For manual level of detail, you essentially make your highly detailed mesh as your first level of detail, and a few versions of the same mesh gradually decreasing the detail and how many polygons or triangles it has. I have around 3 or 4 levels of detail for manual level of detail meshes in my game. Godot has a built-in LOD system that can do this automatically, so that's getting used as well, but I use manual LODs for things like trees, rocks, and foliage when using the Spatial Gardener plugin. As part of the LOD system, I also use Godot's feature to fade out meshes at certain distances from the player camera, which reduces the amount of geometry the game has to render at any given time. The next technique is my custom zone loading system that I've mentioned before. Essentially, there are zones in my open world where all of the zone child nodes get loaded in and unloaded as needed when you enter or leave a zone. There are also subzones within my zones, and I mostly use this for things like building interiors, so none of their contents are loaded in when you're not really near the building. The last big one I'll mention is occlusion culling. Occlusion culling is basically used so that your GPU doesn't have to work hard rendering things that a player can't even see. If you're in front of a wall, there's no reason to render everything behind the wall, because you can't see it anyway. In Godot, you can just turn this feature on, and then start creating occlusion instance 3D nodes. These nodes act as a simplified version of the meshes in your world, like walls and floors and whatnot, to calculate if it needs to render things or hide things. You can even bake your entire level with one of these nodes, if that'll work for you, and I also can use the tool for Terrrain3D to bake an occluder mesh for my terrain as well, so it's pretty easy to set up and can really boost the performance quite a bit. It works extremely well for enclosed areas and not as good for open areas. I'm not trying to hyper-optimize Sacred Forest right now, but I do need to keep the game running somewhat well for testing and eventually for the demo. These techniques are easy to use and maintain, so it's worth it for me to use them early on. Of course, when I get to a more finished version of the game, I'll probably go Insano mode, optimizing everything I possibly can.
Captain Insano shows no mercy.
But until then, this is good enough. Alright, onto some characters. I've been working on some new character animations for the NPCs in my game. These have been some walk animations, fly animations, and even a thumbs up. I also implemented a little system for all NPCs so I can easily make them fade in or out if they finish what they need to say and are moving to a new area. Now that a few of my NPCs can walk around, I wanted them to have a similar setup to my player character. As far as footsteps go, depending on the type of ground the player character is on, it changes what footstep sounds are played, and also controls what type of particles are emitted. So when you're on a carpet, it sounds squishy. But if you're on wood, it sounds like wood should. If you're running on dirt, it emits dirt particles, and this system even uses my custom spatial audio player with dynamic acoustics, so when you're in caves, it echoes a bit. By taking into account the surrounding materials in the world. I know a lot of people have said the particles don't look very good, and I agree, I just haven't had time to work on those yet. But I separated this footstep emitter out of my player into its own reusable node, which is good since it lets me reuse it for not only the player, but also all of my NPCs. And when I finally get around to making it look better, and even add things like water splashes, I only have to update this one node, and it'll instantly make my player and all my NPCs look and sound better, instead of just having to fix it all individually. Speaking of making things look better, every now and then, I like to take a look at some techniques for things that might improve the look and feel of Sacred Forest. Since Godot 4 now has access to the fog shader type, I thought I'd take a stab at using that for some clouds. I made this shader pretty customizable so I can make clouds with different colors, and I tried to optimize it as much as I could. I'll probably use this for things other than clouds too, so I think it was worth the few hours of playing with it. I also played around with this frost shader by
Xstarsia,
and it looks pretty cool. It doesn't work with everything that I have in the game right now, and I'm not really sure if I'll end up using some version of it. I do want some snowy regions in the game, but it's probably better if I just make some custom snow and mountain assets and use a different approach for those instead of relying on a screen space shader, since right now, if the frost is enabled, it would just apply it to everything in view, and that's not really what I'd be looking for, so I'd have to do some trickery to make it work. But it was cool enough that I at least wanted to shout it out, and if it works for someone else then that would be great. Next up is the new upgrade for my flag system. The flag system is my custom plugin for creating flags for the game that are used to control the state of the game. The entire game is pretty much solely built around this system. It has spawners and interaction nodes that let me set up simple and even pretty complex scenes without having to write custom scripts for everything. It also acts as the save system for the game. The newest upgrade is that my interaction node can now be triggered directly by a flag condition. This means that if certain flags are set, it will automatically trigger the interaction. An interaction can either call a function, an animation player, or call a dialogic timeline directly. Dialogic is what I use for the dialogue system, and I wanted to make my flag system as easy to use as possible, since I'll be using it for everything. This new feature actually opened up the possibility for me to make an intro for the game, as well as the little dialogue sequences with the intro NPC. All of the cutscenes and dialogue are controlled with the flag system. I've also put a ton of work into creating the tutorial for the game. It takes place in the training grounds I showed off earlier, and it's entirely built using the interaction system. It's definitely not finished, and will need a lot of spicing up later on, but it really makes it feel like the game is an actual game now, and it at least goes over all the basic controls for the player. I even made it use the correct icons depending on the controller that you're using, or if you're using a keyboard and mouse. The last thing I want to mention is the new upgraded player camera. My camera object and the player object are completely separate. The camera is always trying to smoothly reach the current viewpoint of my character, whether it's first person or third person. Previously, there was nothing stopping the camera from clipping through the walls and the ground, since the viewpoints on my character are just at set distances, and they don't have any colliders or anything. To prevent the camera from clipping, I ended up using a raycast starting from the center of the player and pointing to my current active viewpoint position. So if the raycast hits a wall or anything, I can calculate a safe position for the camera to move to. So this is what it looks like. As I rotate my camera to where it runs into the wall, it just brings the camera in closer to the player. I feel like this is a pretty common approach for games, but maybe there's a better way to do it, so if you have suggestions, I'd be open to hear them out. Anyway, you can join the Sacred Forest Discord and check out the Steam page. Or not. Until next time.